Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful and kindle in us the fire of your love. Amen. Well, when our daughter was little, she got a lot of Disney and Universal Studio vacations because my sister lives in Florida, in Orlando, and then my parents moved and retired to Kissimmee. So we spent a lot of time on vacation going to Disney and Universal. And when she hit about 7, that's about the age when they can start going on the more extreme rides. And so we were at Universal Studios this one day, and she begged to go on the Jaws ride. I'm thinking this is probably not a good idea. However, she was very persistent. She can be very persuasive, my daughter. And she begged, and she said, oh, no, it'll be fine. And I'm like, okay. Her cousin was like, I'm not going on that. So Mike stayed with Lila. I get in line and go on with Ashley. All is good, and we're chatting it up until we get on the boat. And the guy gets on the speaker, and we take off from shore. And all of a sudden, she's like, I don't want to be on this. I don't want to be on this. And I'm like, it's too late, kid. And she buried her head in her hands and sobbed through the entire ride. I couldn't do nothing to get her to open her eyes to see it wasn't as bad. Whatever she was imagining was worse than what we were seeing. All I could do was put my arm around her and kind of pull her in close, and I just tried to talk her through what was going on and tried to calm her down. And when all was said and done, she survived and all was fine, but there was that moment where she just got hysterical. And any of you who are parents or grandparents or, have kids in your charge, when a kid is hysterical, you just want to calm them down. You want them to feel better. And I thought of that. I've thought a lot about hens and chicks. This gospel reading we have today, that image of Jesus wanting to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. I Googled chicks and hens and chicks. I cannot tell you the image. I'll post some of them on Facebook later. I thought about trying to show you, but it's hard. But there were so many pictures of that wonderful image. And I love that Jesus talks to us in images we can relate to. Most of us have seen hens and chicks. If nowhere else, we've seen chicks at the Museum of Science and Industry at some time in our life. You haven't been on a farm and you haven't really seen the real thing, but hens will. They will just tuck their babies under their wings. If it's raining, they keep them dry. If there's danger, they protect them. And so as I was going through Googling images, one of the images that came up was a picture that I actually have. In the Holy Land, there's a church called Dominus Flavet. It's this. It's in the shape of a teardrop. And it's where Jesus stood when he said this and wept over Jerusalem. And this image is on the altar. And in the altar, you can see out to the city of Jerusalem. You can see the Dome of the Rock and all that. And you can just imagine Jesus there with such compassion for the people that did not want to turn and follow him. I love that he had the desire to draw all people. Psalm 27, which is my favorite. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? We can choose to live in fear in this world that's crazy. Someone could burst in here. We've had shooters in churches and movie theaters and restaurants. There is no place that's safe anymore. There just isn't. But we are in God's keeping. And no matter what happens to us, God is with us. And so I guess the question for us is, how do we live in a world like this to make it a better place for the people that we care about? One of the beautiful stories that came out a few months ago when the Jews were attacked in their temple, and I forget if it was Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. Pittsburgh. They were attacked in their own temple. Then Muslims came and stood guard around their building so they could pray. And Muslims and Jews have also stood around Christian buildings so they could pray. And when this happened to the temple, the people in the temple, the Jews in the temple, the Muslims in the community raised money to help these people recover. Well, when this horrible thing happened in New Zealand on Friday, The same Jews from that temple who were helped by the Muslims are now raising money for them. This is the best of us. We can bring love and light into a world that so sorely needs it. We won't eliminate the anger and the hate. We won't. But the best antidote to it is love. And that we have. We have the capacity to bring God's love to this broken world and to share it wherever we can. We hopefully won't be called out to be a hero. Maybe it will be a simple thing like cuddling your kid next to you in a scary ride. We have people in our sphere that need our love, that need our protection, that need our care. And one person at a time, we can make this world a more loving and more healthy place to be in. I watched one of the interviews of this guy who chased him down, and they were calling him a hero, and he says, "I'm not a hero. God saved these people." Whatever tradition we worship in, it's like we worship a God of love. And we have to figure out a way to have respect among our traditions. We don't have to look at other as the enemy. Other is just different. Do you see tulips and roses fighting? They're just beautiful. And each religion, each denomination brings a beauty of their own to the table. We have our beauty. We have the beauty of liturgy and music and wonderful worship and breaking bread at this table to be fed. But we're fed to go out into this world to make a difference. May we be ready for the simple ways that God calls us to share His love, like with a child, or the big ways. Maybe there's some way we need to figure out as a church community. How do we interact with the temple and the mosque across town? Can we get in dialogue? Can we find some ways to find some common ground? Or just at least let them know we're praying for them when these horrible things happen. We have the capacity to change this world by the grace of God's love that fills our hearts. In Romans it says the Holy Spirit fills our hearts with love. That is the answer to the horrors of this world. And each one of us has that within ourselves to give. I wonder, as Jesus wept over Jerusalem, if God is weeping now. As He looks on the world, how much He still must long to gather us under His wings. All of us. We are all part of God's family. The human family. We can't pull ourselves apart and separate ourselves and say the other doesn't matter. That's been happening for too long, and too much violence happens because of it. How is God calling us to build some bridges instead of walls that will close some of these gaps and bring love to this world that so sorely needs it? Amen.
Amen.